All right, welcome back to part 2. Sorry I ran out of time. All right, so this next example, this is the last one. Bailey scored 9 runs in 3 games, and Riley scored 12 runs in 5 games. The coach decided he would put in the player with the higher runs per game. Who will it be? Show your work. So we're going to have to compare these two, but we're going to have to compare them in runs per game, because we got to find out who's got the higher runs per game. Well, that's a unit, right? So we're going to say runs per 1 game. Well, if we look, Bailey, put B up here, scored 9 runs. And if we label, we see we've got runs across from runs. And we're going to put X there because we don't know how many runs. You could put an R. Out of 3 games. And then Riley scored 12 runs in 5 games. And we are going to see how many runs Riley scored per 1 game. So there's the unit rate again. All right, so over here you could actually divide by 3 and divide by 3 and find out X is equal to 3 runs per game. But we're just going to keep in practice of cross multiplying. So I'm going to go 9 times 1 and X times 3, or 3X equals 9 times 1, which is 9. And we're cross multiplying equivalent fractions there, or equivalent ratios. They're proportional. All right, so now we're going to divide both sides by 3. So X is equal to 3. So it's going to be 3 runs per 1 game. So that's his runs per game. And now let's look at Riley. So we're going to cross multiply again. So we're going to take 5 times X, so 5X equals 12 times 1, which is just 12. We're going to divide both sides by 5. So we get 1X, or X, equals 5 will be 2. And you have 2/5 left over. So 2 2/5 runs, so that's not quite 3 runs per game. 1 game. So we know that then Bailey's going to get to go in because his runs per game was a little higher than Riley's, and the coach said that's how he's going to do it. Now, one thing that when you come in for your exit slip, you have to be able to tell me why when I cross multiply 2 equivalent fractions, and let's do 4/5, and how about we multiply by 6/6 and get 24/30. Okay, so we know those are equal because I multiply by 6/6. But their cross products are also equal. And the way we look at that, you know how we always say let's find the least common denominator? Well, you can also just take this denominator and multiply the numerator and denominator by this denominator. And then we could take this denominator and multiply this numerator and denominator by that denominator and get 2 equivalent fractions. When we do that, we get 120 over 150. And again, we get 5 times 24. 5 times 20 is 100. 5 times 4 is 20. So we also get 120 over 150. Okay, so we get equivalent fractions. And we get equivalent fractions, so we know they're equal because we have the same denominator. So this just a shortcut is to say if I take this 4 times this 30, which is really what I'm doing right here, but I know that that's going to be the numerator of 1 of the equivalent fractions. And then if I take this 5 times 24, that's also going to be the numerator of the equivalent fraction, and they're both going to have denominators 150, so we really only have to compare the numerators. And if they're both 120, then we know they're equivalent. So really all you're doing is finding a common denominator by multiplying one denominator over itself times the one fraction, and then take the other denominator over itself times the other fraction, and you're really just comparing the numerators. So kind of go through that and digest that, and then you'll just come back and you'll just have to explain why cross multiplying is the same thing. When you cross multiply equivalent fractions, you get equivalent cross products. Have a good evening. Oh, wait a minute. I'm like, oh shit. Introduce Rudy to you. So let me see if I can find Rudy. Rudy! Hey, Louie, do you know where Rudy is? There he is. Stay right there, Rudy. I want to introduce you to my class. Say hi, guys. Sit. Say, can you sit? Sit pretty. Come on, sit pretty. There's my little Rudy. Can you sit? He was sitting over in the window. All right, bye-bye.